afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rich Golozeski. I'm the president of the Imperial Band, the hosts of this lovely facility you're in today. We'd like to welcome you to the Imperial Music Center. Just a few little housekeeping things. Please notice where the exits are in the event of an emergency. And do visit our friends in the bar. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Nicholas Santoro, the person who has set up this wonderful benefit for us. Nicholas.
Thanks, Rich. Yes, thank you for coming. 10 years ago, Matt Paterno, the conductor of the Hanover Winds, and I were at a state music conference at the bar. Well, what are the chances? And we said, you know, it would be really fun if we had your band and my band do a joint concert. And we did, 10 years ago. We did a concert up in Whippany at their home, and it was an all-Italian concert. We called it That's Nice. It was so well received that we waited another 10 years to do a home and home and invite the Hanover Winds down to South River to this lovely venue. So what you're going to hear tonight is friends in music. Because some of us, a lot of us have been friends, cross-pollinating friends, for some of us well over 50 years. I do need to introduce one person though, Dr. Bill Trussheim, who was the band director at South River High School for 17 years. So if you are a Ram from back in the day, you remember Dr. Bill. So what's going to happen, what you see before you are the combined brass sections of both bands. And Matt's going to open the concert with Hail Nero from Quo Vadis, and then they will leave, or half of them will leave, and the Central Jersey Wind Ensemble will come on, and we will do our concert, and then there'll be an intermission, and during the intermission, the combined woodwind sections from both bands will come up. So there's going to be a lot of movement, and then when the combined woodwinds are done, half of them will leave, and then the Hanover Winds will do their program. So there's going to be a lot of moving parts, so while we're setting up and moving, get a drink or two. And we're doing this as a fundraiser for the Imperial Music Center and the Imperial Band so we can keep this facility up and running. It opened in 1970, and actually my wife and I got married here. Yeah, like right here. And yeah, we've had, you know, many a good event here. So yeah, so buy yourself a drink or two, buy your neighbor 2 drinks, and I'd like to introduce at this time the conductor of the Hanover Wind Symphony, longtime friend, Rutgers grad, Mr. Matt Paterno.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here today. What Nick didn't tell you though about his wedding is he was still conducting while getting married, so they were just keeping the music going. This piece is a great piece. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to get together and play together. And you wonder how many people can do this, right? Who can come together, having rehearsed the piece apart, and work together just to enjoy music. It's one of the wonderful things about music. And this reminds me of Ben-Hur and the chariot races, so if you have any chariots, feel free to use them. Give us just 1 minute for a quick ensemble change. Thank you very much for your patience. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce to you a man I've known and been influenced by for close to 40 years, the principal conductor of the Central Jersey Wind Ensemble, today's host, and the godfather of New Jersey music education, Mr. Nick Santoro.
Thank you, thank you. Our next tune is written by jazz flugelhorn player Thad Jones. Thad Jones was very famous with Mel Lewis, with the Thad Jones and Mel Lewis Orchestra at the Village Vanguard. And while at the Village Vanguard, the pianist for the group, Sir Roland Hanna, was just noodling around during breaks, and he was playing these chord changes, and people started to join in, and eventually Thad Jones kept hearing this, and he went home and he wrote an arrangement, and he called it A Child Is Born. He shows up to a gig with the music, and so Roland Hanna says, is this my tune? He goes, not anymore. So we'd like to have our associate conductor, the music director of the Monmouth Symphony Orchestra, and my lovely wife, Ms. Barbara Santoro, to conduct Thad Jones's A Child Is Born, featuring the haunting and lovely English horn of Pat Hunt and flugelhorn of Matt Krimpaski.
today, you want to tell people about it. This is in English. The big one. The big one.
All right, for our final selection today, when Matt and I were discussing what to play, a piece that Hanover will open with, Gale Force, we fought over. But I said, you can do it, because I really wanted to do this next piece, the Polka and Fugue from Schwanda the Bagpiper. And you're probably wondering, what is that? Well, it's an opera written in April. It was premiered in April of 1927 in the Czech National Opera. And it was then produced in December of 1928 in Germany, and then there were over 17 other languages that this opera was translated into. The Met Opera did it in November of 1931, and unfortunately the opera fell out of the repertoire during the Nazi regime in the late 30s. And it's not really been done except for the music you're going to hear. Now I have to tell you the story because it's bizarre. And then when you hear the music, it'll be less bizarre. So this is the story. It has been a week since Schwanda and Dorotka married. The robber, Babinski, takes refuge in their farmhouse and immediately falls in love with Dorotka. Babinski quickly convinces Schwanda of the tedium of married life and persuades him to go off on an adventure. So they arrive at the Queen's court, where the Queen is under the power of a magic magician, a wicked magician. The Queen had made a deal with the magician where she consented to the death of the prince in exchange for a heart of ice, and then has no human feelings. And she also got a diamond specter with this, symbolic of her power. So Schwanda plays his bagpipes, which breaks the spell. And that's the first part of the music that you're going to hear. The Queen then offers herself to Schwanda in marriage, and Schwanda accepts, kissing her, but Dorotka appears, which angers the Queen. And the Queen, her heart now of ice again, has Schwanda and Dorotka imprisoned and Schwanda condemned to death. But wait, there's more. So Babinski helps save Schwanda by replacing the executor's axe with the broom. So Schwanda plays his bagpipes again, enchanting the crowd gathered for his execution, and escapes with Dorotka. She herself is now angry at Schwanda and questions his fidelity. There will be a quiz. So Schwanda retorts that if he ever kissed the Queen, may he go to hell. But forgetting that he did kiss the Queen, Schwanda immediately drops through the earth into hell, and Babinski then tells Dorotka that he loves her, but she makes him promise to rescue Schwanda. There's more. While in hell, the devil asks Schwanda to play for him, since he has nothing to do, because no one will play cards with the devil, because he always cheats. So Schwanda first refuses, but then Babinski appears and challenges the devil to a card game. By cheating even more than the devil, Babinski wins the game and rescues Schwanda. And this is the second part of the music you're going to hear, is when Schwanda plays his bagpipes again, and Schwanda and Dorotka are reconciled, and Babinski sorrowfully leaves in search of new adventures. Got all that? The music's much better. So, with that said, this is the Polka and Fugue from Schwanda the Bagpiper. Thank you so much. So give us a few minutes. We're going to leave the stage, and then all of the woodwinds from both bands are going to take the stage to start the second half. So go have a drink. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're ready. So what you have before you are the combined woodwind players from Central Jersey Wind Ensemble and the Hanover Winds. And you should know that, as with the brass, this is the first time that they're all playing together. We rehearsed separately over the past couple of weeks, but they've never played together, so they don't know each other. And so, introduce yourselves. So to start the second half is the combined woodwind sections of the Central Jersey Wind Ensemble and Hanover Wind Symphony, conducted by the lovely Barbara Santor.
This piece, Il Re Pastor, was written by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart shortly before he wrote Così fan tutti. So it's pretty much in that same kind of light style. The plot would take longer to tell you than it would be for us to play this piece, so I'm just going to skip all that. Because nobody performs this opera, so it doesn't matter. What matters is what's left is this beautiful piece of music. And Nick had mentioned that we had not worked together, which is true, and that people might be sitting next to those that they don't know, but we have a couple of clarinetists who went to undergraduate college together. So I have to keep my eye on them when they're playing to make sure that they behave. But it's always a pleasure to meet new musicians, and we find that we have so many friends in common that we find that that's one of the greatest things about being in music. No matter what kind of an ensemble it is, we find that we make new friends very quickly, and that we have many mutual friends, and we just have the joy of working and making music together. So here's a little Mozart. Thank you very much. I don't think that I've ever conducted an ensemble with 6 bassoons, 3 oboes, a contra clarinet, 2 bari saxes, and all of the other instruments that you see. But it was a beautiful job, so thank you very much, musicians. And give us a minute to change back to the Hanover Winds. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. And it is now time for the highlight of the day. Our guests, the Hanover Wind Symphony, conducted by the lovely and talented Matt Paterno, who I've known since he was a freshman at Rutgers a couple of days ago. But before you start, there's just one quick story, because I love telling this story. Friends through music, we have cross-pollination. Dan Massey and I were subbing with the Atlantic Brass Band in 1999, and we were in Chicago at a brass band festival, and our concert was at 2 o'clock, and the event was at like a lodge, and it had a steakhouse, and Dan will verify the fact that I did a 42-ounce steak. You don't get to look like this. But anyway. So, ladies and gentlemen, please sit back and enjoy the fantastic Hanover Wind Symphony.
Thank you very much. Just a quick thank you to the Imperial Music Center. I've been coming here since 1990. We appreciate being able to use this facility. Thank you to Nick for setting everything up. One of the things that we used to be here for was the Imperial Brass Band. When it started here, I think in '92, we started playing here. So it's kind of a homecoming for a lot of us, and a lot of people in both of our groups played in that ensemble. And the tie-in to that is our first piece is entitled Gale Force. It was originally written for a brass band, and it contains 3 Irish folk songs: Rocky Road to Dublin, The Minstrel Boy, and then the last one is a reel, because we want to keep it real. Thank you. I heard Anne laugh. A reel called Tossing the Feathers. And it's very challenging, and some of the group asked, how should they approach it? And I said, you know what, just wing it. Wasn't that fun? Thank you. I'd now like to turn the podium over to our Associate Music Director, a very good friend, Mr. Aidan Cobb.
There we go. Our next selection for you is called Shadow Rituals by Michael Markowski. While there is no complicated and long story behind this, it's definitely a very different piece than anything that you've heard today. This was his first published piece when he was 20 years old, and it won the Frank DeKelly Composition Contest. So enjoy.
And now for something completely different. Our next piece by Jacob Dahan is entitled Amelon. Amelon is an area in southern Germany known for its parks and beautiful area, and he's trying to tell you about how beautiful the area is in this music. So we hope you get the idea, and you know, if we can play this right, there won't be a dry seat. I'm sorry, in the house. That's as fun to play as it is to listen to. Now, our next piece is entitled Man in Veen. And the first time I played this piece was with Dr. Trusheim. Dr. Trusheim and Mr. Santoro have been friends for 60 years. Was doing a scholarship concert in South River for a student that had passed away. And my friend from college, Dr. Paul Crusoe, said, hey, why don't you come play? He needs another euphonium player. So many of the people I met in that band that day are either in the Central Jersey Wind Symphony or in the Hanover Wind Symphony. And we've played together for many, many years. So this piece always makes me think of them and how the world opened up meeting that many people. Hayden Wood really loved this island where he came from, and he's trying to tell you that through 4 of their folk songs that he uses. The end, if you see any of the clarinet players fall over, please pick them up and help them back to their seat. We'd like to close again today, thanking everybody for coming, thanking everybody for participating in today. This is Hayden Wood's Man in V. We'd like to, on behalf of me and Nick, we'd like to invite everybody to the bar for a beer on us. That's one beer for everybody to share.
Thank you so much, Matt, and Nick, and the other conductors. I'm sorry, I don't have everyone's name. Aiden and Barbara. This was a special event for us. I know we don't have this many people in the band all the time, so don't expect it in the first weekend of May. But our next concert is Sunday, the first weekend of May. Please join us. For those of you who haven't been here before, welcome. For all my familiar faces, thanks for coming back. And I'd like to thank everyone in the ensemble and the Central Jersey Band for also coming in, supporting live music. Thank you so much.